You're listening to Stories for Monsters Episode 8, Empty Destinies. As time continued to pass, it became more and more difficult to deny that a war was brewing. Unregistered mages were hunted more viciously than anyone else. The logic was that underground mages were less likely to be registered, so blanket coverage would be the most effective. In reality, there wasn't really any way short of a thorough questioning and investigation to identify patrons of the church as distinct from anyone else. Mages, on the other hand, just about anyone could learn magic. That's part of what made it so popular in common industries. Before, we used magic to light candles, open jars, clean tables. But proficiency, that tended to be attained in either one of two ways. Either by dedicated study, or at least with a prior affinity through someone's bloodline. Magic tends to thrive through generations, and when enough generations cultivate their power embedded into their culture, they become something new, different. In some peoples, like the elves, it's common, and the body changes in the form of pointed ears or their vast, lithe musculature. Others are infused with magic in rarer ways, like the Afridi, who are born of jinn and magic and wishes. The important thing to the guards, though, was that these types of people were easiest to spot in a crowd. That a guard could immediately see them, like candles against the stark backdrop of a moonless night. And so, for mage folk with power burning in their veins, sorcerers, the streets of Revelita became dangerous to walk, even in the day. Sometimes there are no easy ways out. There's no solution that we can see manifested in our lifetimes. Sometimes we band together and just hold the line. That doesn't stop people from trying. Ultimately, that's what enables us to move forward. Those people who lunge into the pitch of uncertainty, who inspire others to chase them, to widen the path and make the breach into tomorrow just a little safer. Fiametta was one of those people. She tugged at the hood over her horns as she walked down the pier to a trade ship one day. And she said,
Is this the last ship to, Anair? Einir?
That's a good one. You're serious?
Einir.
You realize we're only picking up silk at the port and leaving, right? This isn't a cruise.
So, I have the correct ship?
the sailor scoffed.
Captain! Someone wants to book passage.
This isn't a passenger vessel, miss. We are going to a strange, far away land, completely infested up to the tips of your little horns with spiders. That's the reality of it. They will eat you for breakfast. For a week.
Fiametta swallowed loudly.
Yep, that's the place. But you're the only ones going there right now. Yeah?
The captain eyed her, interested but skeptical.
Doesn't matter. I won't be bought. Not for some liability who brings nothing to the crew.
I can cook. I make really good fireflakes, and I can make pastries and shape them with...
Already gotta cook.
And I perform! It's a long trip, right? Must be really boring traveling that far with nothing to do, or listen to, or entertain yourselves with.
Okay. What can you do?
Anything. I can conjure anything. Perform any song or stunt. I just want passage.
The captain looked to the deckhand, who shrugged and agreed that some entertainment would be nice.
Don't expect any special treatment.
And so Fiametta accompanied the crew to the infamous land of Einar, the twisted continent that sat on the line between the Lorelei and the milky Nether Sea. In the distance, Fia could already see all she needed to. The mountain spires adorned in the unholy glimmer of silken strands that flicked to and fro in the wind. Before that, the forest, cocooned in cobwebs, suffocated any daylight. And before that, the harbor where they intended to dock. And on either side, stony beaches stretched away from the empty port and, as she expected, a shipwreck from an old pirate vessel that had run aground. Technically, what she was doing was criminal. No Revelitan was allowed to venture this far to this place. Between the danger of not only the land's inhabitants, but the monsters that supposedly lurked in the waters both here and beyond. But that was part of the reason she'd come in the first place. Fiametta shook off any hesitation. Fear would only kill her faster here. Besides, she only intended to venture to the dilapidated ship. Any further was a death trap.
You're better off staying below deck until we leave.
The captain said to Fiametta.
Just stay put. Long as you do that, I can make sure you have a way home.
Even approaching the harbor, the smell of rotting, unfortunate vagabonds who had unwittingly arrived on this side of the hellscape hung heavy in the air.
We've been over this. I have a mission.
A suicide mission?
Fiametta didn't answer him as they pulled the ship into port. The captain gave her a last look.
Poor kid.
He instructed the crew to approach the edge of the forest with their spools. They were told to be quick. If they went missing, no one would look for them. Fiametta watched them go and set her eyes on the shipwreck. She tilted her head and thought, counting the steps to reach her target, then nodded and stepped off the edge of the deck, supporting her weight fully with flames that jetted from below her boots. Her movements were elegantly controlled, as if each step were perfectly placed on a razor that arched from one ship to the other. She didn't look down, but she could feel the pressure of a million eyes from the traps below her, hoping for a misstep. They didn't leave any evidence. The beach was spotless except for the wreck, but that was the point, wasn't it? To appeal to some idiot's curiosity, not to distract or warn against what lay in shadow. Fiametta stepped aboard the sunken deck of the dilapidated vessel, clenching up a little as her soul sizzled and burned into the dead wood. A frigid gust of wind rushed across the ship, cooling her boots into the marred wood before giving way to a growl as it manifested itself into the cloudy apparition of a piecemeal uniform, stretched over the bristled back of what Fiametta could only assume used to be a man, before he had grown fangs and claws and a wolfish snout. His yellow eyes locked onto her. Snarled the ghostly werewolf captain. Fiametta bowed.
My name is Fia. I seek the whereabouts of the Mad Oracle.
The wispy figure scoffed, the sound not unlike stiff canvas being whipped by a gale.
And why would I help you? What have you brought to me?
Fiametta grinned.
Entertainment. I'm sure you don't get many visitors. Certainly not many asking for you to sail once more into the cold trench you died in. Nor many excuses to investigate the woman who ended you.
The captain paused, and his form took clearer shape. His foggy yellow eyes narrowed to more closely examine Fiametta.
What makes you think I want to do either of those things?
You didn't stay on the distant shore.
The apparition meditated on this, then nodded, resolved.
You make fine points, young friend. But why do you want to find Gemini?
I seek knowledge beyond the mortals I've spoken to on land.
You sound like her. Very well. I will escort you safely into her domain.
Fiametta took a deep breath. Then they waited for the twilight. As the sun died beneath the waves and the moon peeked out from behind the mountains, fractured by the webs that danced in snow and air, the captain's eyes glowed gold. He incanted, At his behest, the wreck came alive beneath the cold light. The old wood creaked and mended as time unraveled the damage of saltwater, sunlight, and forgotten history. The mast raised itself and the sails billowed into the present, and the great ship, Gnosenu, gripped the tide and dragged itself from the shore. The vessel cut through the water like seconds, straddling the line between the Lorelei and the nether sea as the moon chased it from one horizon to the other. Then, just before the great pale phantom could catch them, the ship dove. Down and down and waves blotted out the moonlight as inky dark engulfed her. Down and down and down, the ocean suffocated any movement but the enormous eyes, watching a ghost and a girl, falling into the murk. Down and down and down, the ocean floor ended and dropped into a trench called the Maw. And there, beneath it all, was the abode of the mad empress of the sea. A voice like wine floated out of the impossible coral castle.
Fiametta, come in. I've been waiting for you.
The water evaporated around the ship, letting it rest in the muck, and a pathway to the inside dried and crackled. Luminescent creatures gathered at the water's edge, clarifying the trail. The captain looked to their destination, then to Fia apprehensively. He nodded and sat. Fiametta gritted her teeth and took a deep breath of the new, chilled air that surrounded her and stung her lungs, then followed the pathway inside. Deep mermaids and all forms of ravenous sea folk and creatures alike devoured her with their eyes, but dared not move against her, lest they dishonor the invitation of their queen. Fiametta found Maud waiting in a cavernous throne room, lounging in an underwater stream that cut through the chamber, splitting it diagonally. Lining the walls, windows peered into different places and times, spying on peoples of every stripe or walk. The queen's bottom half was powerful and sleek, decorated with wide fins and jagged etching, and moved effortlessly with the water. Her top half, which was more human but paler than a corpse after so long away from the surface, was symmetrically muscled and graceful.
You never get used to it.
I don't understand.
That's what I mean. The lack of answers. The assumption that there even are answers. That you just have to find whoever has them. I understand though. I was like you once. And you'll be like me someday. The one with the answers.
There's a war. Finn and I have been resisting, helping people, laying low, but...
It's inevitable?
Is it?
Maud nodded. She sighed, then stood up out of the stream, her fins dissolving and reshaping into long legs, and a train that flowed behind her as she walked, gazing through one of the windows. She squeezed the excess water from her hair, and the drops flowed back toward the stream.
The world's a big place, you know? There are a lot of powerful people. More than you or me, anyway. If they want a war, then a war is going to happen. So it isn't about stopping the war. If you're not the one instigating it, then you really don't have the power or means. It's just not your decision. You can try and end it, but that's different.
Well, I can't just do nothing.
That's exactly what you want.
Said the queen, harshly. She didn't break her gaze through the window, but the words were enough to shame her. Fiametta looked away.
You shouldn't have to do anything. But here we are. It doesn't help to mope.
I'm not moping. I came here for help. For answers. It wasn't easy.
Comparatively.
Look, if you don't have the answers, that's fine. I was hoping you could at least point me toward the Eye of Destiny.
I wouldn't give you my pearl if I still had it. It would neither serve you nor be safe in your charge.
What do you mean it wouldn't be safe?
This is how you die, Fiametta. This war and the echoes of wars that follow it. So make your choices, every single one, knowing that it is very likely your last, and help everyone you can until then. I'm sorry. I wish I could help you more, but I can't. Good luck with the resistance and the evacuation. I will see you again.
Fiametta thanked her and left. She walked out, past the murderous guards and up the gangplank to board. When they reached the surface, the captain asked,
What did the old witch say?
She told me that I was going to die.
Well, she'd know, wouldn't she? Great deal of help, that one. Do you need a ride back home?
If it isn't too much to ask.
The captain nodded and altered course back to Revelita. Halfway there, they paused to watch the migration. Great, beating dragon wings shaded the sun and shook the air as the beasts flew away from the mainland for the last time. Stories for Monsters is a production of Rhetorical Answers. It is written, directed, produced, and primarily voiced by Fable McDaniel. The voice of Fiametta is Lauren McDaniel. The voice of the captain is Kyle Newbridge. The voice of the ghost is Jeremy Kays. The voice of Maud is Saborfly. Original music by Rhetorical Answers. Logo art by Kyle Newbridge. This special episode was a prompt by Tiahna Bredenkamp. Thank you for your patronage. You can check out more of our Ghost Werewolf Pirate Captain's work at chair.art. Chair makes some fantastic emotionally aware comics. His current project is Wild Azaleas, a love story with bounty hunters. He also streams at twitch.tv/ironoki. That's IRONOHKI. Also, check out Kyle's work. He makes the comics Of This Light and The Punchline is Death. He also streams at twitch.tv/knewbridge, and you can find him on YouTube by searching Kyle Newbridge. Support him at patreon.com/knewbridge. That's KNEWBRIDGE. Special thanks to my patrons, and a big shout out to Adrian, Cindy, Darian, Jay, Marilyn, and Tiahna. This would be impossible without your support. Finally, thank you to my players for inspiring me to make such a fantastical world. If you like this and want more information, visit the website at rhetoricalanswers.net. And if you want to help support the show and the music and me making cool new things, please check out patreon.com/answers. Patrons get free stuff, surprises, early ad-free access, prompts, behind-the-scenes peeks at stuff, and their name in the credits. It's loads of fun, but most importantly, patrons are the reason I can even do this at all. And I hope that one day, with enough of you, I'll be able to tackle more ambitious projects and support myself doing this full time. Thanks for listening, and thanks for subscribing. Late.